Welcome to the Nerdist Podcast number 923. This episode brought to you by Squarespace. Say, you got some big plans for the new year? Well, Squarespace makes it easy to turn your idea into a unique website. Show off your work or your blog or your soul. You publish some content, sell products, services of any kind, just in a few clicks. You can customize everything from look and feel to settings and products using beautiful templates created by world-class designers. And there's nothing ever to install, patch, or upgrade. So head to squarespace.com, get a free trial. When you're ready to launch, use the offer code NERDIST to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Let's go to the Nerdist Community Corkboard. Dave Klock, an amazing artist who lives in Los Angeles. If you ever went to any of the Meltdown shows when it was the Meltdown with Jonah and Kumail, you've seen his work. He did all the posters for those shows, and they are all masterpieces. Anyway, he's having an art show featuring his posters and other original artwork Saturday, December 16th. So if you like cool art, definitely go. It's going to be at the A.G. Geiger Bookstore in Chinatown. That is 502 Chungking Court, Los Angeles 90012 from 5 to 9 p.m. Or if you can't make it and you still want to see, go buy Dave's art. Or go look at Dave's art at daveklock, KLOC.com. Pearl the Poi Puppy is an adorable blind and deaf dog who's living in Hawaii with her own Instagram account. And to celebrate this holiday season, she's using her Instagram to help raise money for some great animal charities. Just so she can raise as much money as possible, she created a contest. If you donate money to one of the charities, you can be entered to win really great prizes, including dog toys, food, and more. Check out at pearl.the.poi.puppy on Instagram to find out more info, where to donate, how to win, all those things. And just give her a little digital hug if you can. Just give her a sweet little digital hug. This episode is Bill Skarsgård, who is, you may know, is one of the infinite number of Skarsgård clan. You got Alexander Skarsgård, Stellan Skarsgård, Bill Skarsgård. Bill is a brilliant actor who, of course, played Pennywise in It. He was incredible. And he's just such a nice guy. I was in New York. I think we recorded this maybe like 6 weeks ago. He just happened to be in New York doing some press. And I went to his hotel, went up to his hotel room. Just he and I hung out in his hotel room and recorded this. He was just so freaking cool. And he's promoting, besides It, of course, which I'm sure you've already seen, Castle Rock, which I am very excited about. It is coming to Hulu next year. Castle Rock is essentially the horror series which was created for Hulu, and it's basically based on the stories of Stephen King, and it intertwines characters and themes from the fictional town of Castle Rock. Bill is in it, Sissy Spacek, Melanie Linsky, who's a brilliant actor, Scott Glenn, Terry O'Quinn. It is a fantastic group of people. So I am very, very excited for Castle Rock next year. Of course, executive produced by J.J. Abrams and based on Stephen King work. So there you go. That's that. This episode also brought to you by Stamps.com. The holidays are bearing down upon us quickly and showing no sign of slowing down. Time is an ever-moving train that we can only hope to hang on to and enjoy the ride. But maybe it's easier to do that if you buy and print all of your postage from your own computer. Don't wait in lines at the post office. You probably have a million errands to run, right? So who has time for that? Print it all out from any letter package, any class of mail, from your computer, from your printer. The mail carrier picks it up. Stamps.com makes it easy. They're going to send you a digital scale, automatically calculates the exact postage you need. They're going to even help you decide the best class of mail every time. Print postage any day, any time of day. Stamps.com is always open. Stamps is one of those things that what I love about Stamps is that it prints out the exact postage you need, which I always feel like is a subtle way of saying hey, I'm professional. Psst, hey, I'm professional. Rather than putting 2 or 4 or 5 different stamps lining up the side of the thing, and then you're licking them and you get that taste in your mouth. Right now, you can enjoy Stamps.com with a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus postage and a digital scale without long-term commitments. Go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in Nerdist. That's Stamps.com under the promo code Nerdist. Now here's the Nerdist Podcast numbers 923 with Bill Skarsgård. Katie, Bill the Skarsgård.
Now entering Nerdist.com.
know, the great part about that is that you can just talk in Swedish and no one.
Exactly.
And so, being in another country, you have a secret code.
Oh yeah, and you forget sometimes
of your native language.
Right.
Have you ever been surprised by anyone where you think, like, oh, we're totally cool to talk here, and then someone responds in Swedish?
I think I've been close up times, where you'd where I'm like, I'm about to say something, and I'm like almost like a sixth sense, it's like, maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, and then it's like, he's fucking Swedish, I knew it.
Yeah, it was
and in this city, it's crazy, because every time I walk around the streets, I hear Swedish.
Really?
Every time. If I take a walk for an hour, I guarantee you I'll hear Swedish.
It's one of the incredible things about New York is that it's so close to, the European experience that everything is, 6 to 8 hours away.
Yeah.
But when you're in Los Angeles, that's all,
Yeah.
11 to 15 hours away.
Yeah.
So we just don't.
Right.
We just don't get it as much, but it's so wonderful here.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, I think New York is, I think it's the fourth biggest city in Sweden.
Oh, really?
I think so. Or maybe that's London. Maybe it's the fifth.
Oh,
I think,
wow.
But in terms of where Swedish inhabitants, I think London is the fourth and New York's the fifth.
And I was asking your girlfriend, because my wife and I would love to go to Sweden. And she said, yeah, go to Stockholm, start there, and I'll give you a list of places you need to go see.
Yeah, no, and if you come, both Alita's parents and my parents have, beautiful houses in the countryside. It's just an hour outside of Stockholm.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and you, come out and we'll have dinner and stuff.
Oh, that would be so amazing. Yeah, we've never been, and it just... we watch so many horror movies, and Swedish horror is a very specific style of horror movie.
Yeah,
and it's so it's like the angles are wide, and it's so picturesque, and it's just stunning. So much of it feels like it's outdoors, kind of dealing with the elements.
Yeah.
Do you have is there sort of a defining quality of Swedish film for you when you think about the difference?
I don't know if I got this question the other day about. Because it is set in the summer, and it was like, oh, what do you think about it? That's so scary about the summer. And I think December is supposedly the most haunted month, or the most spiritual month for some reason.
Okay.
I think, or sort of in the mystical,
Sure.
sort of Gothic lore at least. It's December has always been. And if you've never been to Sweden in December before, it's quite a thing. It gets pitch black at 3 p.m.
Oh yeah,
pitch black. And so I would, as a kid, I would go to school, I would go to school and it's dark outside. And then when I was walking back from school, it was dark outside. It's black. It's not it's proper black darkness at 3 p.m. So I think in terms of Scandinavian horror, or sort of creative, writing and music as well, I think there's something about being surrounded in that darkness that sort of stimulates, I guess, creativeness, or that you imagination, and there's a lot to come from that. The place of that it's such a dark place during the winter, and of course in the summer it's the complete opposite, and it's rough because when you go into it in December. And then that it's 2-3 months, of this.
I don't think I'm not. It's interesting. It might. It'd be so fascinating to find out if your biochemistry is different, because I think most humans are not designed to be in darkness for 23 hours.
Yeah,
a day.
No, it's crazy, and Stockholm is fairly south, so if you go up to, I think it's sort of on the third to the most southern point, if you look at it that way, and then there's 2/3 more of the country, maybe even more, maybe it's 3/4. And if you go up the furthest north of Sweden, you get full darkness. There's no sun at all for weeks, and then in the summer it's just sun.
Okay, well, see, that balances it out, because you think you hear about this this dark culture where it just seems like they've just thrown a tarp over the sky for a handful. And you think, oh, the people that must exist there must be like mole people. They stay inside, they're tiny, but Swedish people are tall, blue-eyed, fair-skinned, stunning.
Yeah.
It's like everyone. It just that part doesn't add up.
Right.
That part doesn't add up.
Yeah.
I almost think that maybe Sweden is a mythical land. And then you're all magical beings. You must all be magical beings of some sort. I mean, your entire family. Does everyone in your family act, or are there a couple that have? No, jobs?
So I have 3 older brothers.
Yes,
and Alexander and Gustav are both actors.
Yes,
and then my youngest older brother Sam is a doctor, medical doctor, and then it's me, and then it's my little sister, who's. She's sort of managing a nightclub in Stockholm and sort of or restaurant / bar sort of thing. And then there's my little brother Walter, who's an actor. He's 5 years younger than me. And then I have 2 my youngest brothers who are too young to be anything at this point. They're 8 or 9 and 6.
Got it.
Or 9 and 5. Well, how old are they? 8 and 5. Yeah. Yeah, like it remains to be seen if they want to do it. It's one of those. It's a weird thing because my dad hasn't been sort of actively encouraging us to pursue acting. I mean, definitely not actively encouraging us, but he sort of encouraged, or my mom and my dad encouraged us to do whatever we wanted. So if I said I want to be an actor, my dad was like, well, sure, that's fine, but you need to work hard at it, and you need to take it seriously, and all these sort of advices that he would give me if I'd say anything. If I said that I wanted to be a whatever, he would encourage me to take it seriously and work hard at it. And it's funny because I think he gets he gets a question a lot, and he never thought that any of these kids would be actors. Like when he first became a dad,
Sure.
It's like I don't see any of my kids becoming actors, and he has 4 out of his 8 kids.
And everyone's doing really well too. It's
crazy.
It's hard enough for one person from one family to succeed, but there's some sort of weird entertainment royalty that courses through your blood.
I don't know what it's really hard to I think come to terms or to just justify. I don't know why. There's so many people out there that work so hard and really try to pursue a career in acting, and nothing happens, and then I don't know why we're doing so well. It's embarrassing, I think.
Well, with it what's fantastic. I mean, what's really fascinating about it is that you were cast really based on your performance level. I mean, there's no. It's not one of those movies like, oh, we cast a tall, handsome Swedish man. It's like, I mean, that character just has to be creepy as fuck.
Yeah,
and you don't even see his face. You don't even see your actual face, and so that's a really great role to get, because you sort of have to feel like, hey, I really just got this because my performance was good.
Yeah. It was a great role like that, because even in the casting process. There was no sort of specified thing that they were looking for. I mean, Andy, the director, they were looking at, women read for it. Girls read for it. Older guys read for it. Fat, thin, whatever. There's no, rule to what Pennywise would be, Right. There's no, type. There was no type. There was no... he or she could be anything. It's just, whatever the... sort of Andy's interpretation initially would be, and then I just did something that I guess sort of was in line with whatever Andy had envisioned before even started casting it. So, which is one of those things where it's just sort of a combination of just sheer luck that he was doing it, and I sort of brought something that he had already thought of as the character.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And because of that sort of really. Was the beginning of such a great collaboration between us, because whatever I brought, he responded to, and then sort of he said, we really thought along the sort of the same lines of what the character would be.
Right.
So the character you see in the movie is sort of our, sort of collaborative version of what Pennywise was. And,
Sure.
And there was really never any sort of conflicts or disputes. We were sort of on the same page throughout the whole thing, which is extremely rare, I think, as for an actor. I mean, I've never. It's one of the sort of greatest collaborations I've ever had with the director before.
I mean, it's the other great thing too is that I think you can never be typecast as Pennywise because you don't look like you,
right?
So no one will ever go, oh, it's hard for me to see that guy as anything else because he's just so much like her. Because unless you put clown makeup on, like maybe you can't play other clowns,
right?
But outside of that, it seems like it really is an incredibly freeing type of a role because you don't you just disappear into it in a way.
Yeah. It is great because I don't, I mean, if we look at, this is obviously without a doubt the biggest thing I've ever done in terms of how the success of it and how how big the movie became, and also the thing that people will, most people probably don't know who I am or they haven't seen any of my other works and then they go see this movie. And you're right, like I think there is a problem with becoming a type as an actor, and you establish yourself as one thing and then the industry starts putting you into that type and casting you as the same sort of character over and over again.
Right.
And I think you limit yourself and you limit the type of characters that you get to play. So having this role as sort of my launching thing is pretty great because it's hard to typecast me as a creepy clown over and over again, it's. I mean, I really think it's such a fortunate thing because it is a full transformation in a sense. The character, the voice and the movement and the makeup and everything is so far away from who I am in everyday life, right? And I just kind of want to see where that takes me in terms of like I always wanted. Whenever I've gotten the question of like where do you envision yourself in 5 or 10 years or blah 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 and all these sort of ridiculous questions, I try not to think that far ahead at all, but I've always had, even when I was, a kid or younger and started out acting, I always wanted to, like, my main goal was to be able to play as many different characters as I can.
Yeah.
And constantly challenge myself. So my goal was to be able to get work, right? Like, to just be able to get work and do things that inspired me and to play different characters, I think that that is what's sort of one of those things that is most exhilarating for me as an actor, is to just really delve into a character and do that, and then you move on to the next thing, and it's completely different, and there's completely new challenges ahead of you, and to constantly test yourself like that is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people start out, they think, oh, I just want to be super successful, and they don't really think about what is it that specifically that I want to do, because I think that I think there is a trap of people who just want to be famous actors or just want to be, I just want to be like an action, I just want to be like a lead, like a male or female lead. And then you go, well, but then that's really limiting because you could just do that one thing, and at a certain point you kind of can't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. But if you go into, but what you're saying is sort of really about the craft and the sort of the magic of just disappearing into characters. I mean, there are millions of things that you could do for years, and as you start to get older, it's like, oh, when you're 60, you can play these types of characters, and then you're not, some aging film star is like, oh, I got to put on my Spanx and go get the stunt guy to jump around again. I mean, that doesn't sound fun.
No, and I mean, I love, and I think that it's a sad thing when you look at our industry and you see so many men and women who sort of try to cling on to youth, right? And like they surgically try to make things look younger and Botox and all these things as an actor, and to me it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, why? I mean, aging is a wonderful thing to do or to experience as an actor, because I'm really looking forward to the time when I'm 60 years old, and like I'll be able to play the lives of 60-year-old men,
right?
And I can't do that now, but I'm looking forward to the time when my face and my body is mature enough to take on those type of characters, and
right.
And even the same thing of being 35 or 40. Every 5 years, there will be an opening. Some doors will be shut,
right.
and others will open. Right, in terms of characters and who you play, and I think that there's, I think an actor should look at aging as, and I mean, I think people should look at aging like that in life as well. Right, that it's. Like this obsession with clinging on to youth is not healthy. Like aging is a wonderful, beautiful process, and aging like an older, like an aging face, like an older woman or an older man's face can be so beautiful to look at. I think that you see the aging process happening. It's I don't understand this thing of trying to cling on to you.
Well, right now you're like 27.
Yeah.
So you're like a youth billionaire. You're like you're rich in youth right now. And when I was your age, I used to think that too. And then
you got older.
Well, right before I started to hit 40, like right before I hit 40, I was like, oh fuck. I don't. This idea of like cutting up your face, I don't know. Like, but I wouldn't. I just sort of feel like, I guess whatever it is going to be whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you do feel, you do sort of feel that, and it's deeper than this superficial thing of going, oh, I just look a little different. It's that. It's so tied to not to freak you out about getting older, but it is so tied to like really understanding, oh, I'm mortal and there's an end point to all this shit. But when you're basically
dying.
Right now you're a time millionaire, so you're like, oh, okay. But I do believe the way you present it that way, I believe that you are excited about it, and that when you do, and I hope that when you're 60, you're like, this is better than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I've heard that people in their 60s, from late 50s up, can be the happiest times in people's lives.
Right.
Because they just don't, all the stresses that we have when we're younger and all of the anxieties and all of it just all, for a lot of people, just goes away. Like, oh yeah, it's a gift. We're here. It's great. Everything's great. I feel happy and I know who I am now. It just takes that long to figure out who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. I understand, like, coming from, like, a 27-year-old, like, why are you worrying about aging? Yeah, it's but it's what it is to me, because 27 is a weird age, I think, because it's like one of those things where, like, for the first time, there's a shift when you go into sort of your late 20s, I think, where it's like, you're like I did this movie earlier this year called Assassination Nation. It's a high school movie, and I played high school. And I knew that when I was doing that, I'm like, I play 18, and it's it's sort of a teen movie. I mean, it's much more than that actually, but it's we're high school kids. And I knew when I was doing this, I'm like, this is the last time. I'm like, this is the last time that I could ever play someone. And going again, talking about opening doors and doors shutting, like I'm maturing in age, but like that, like I knew I had the fitting, my first fitting for that. And, I'm 18 and it's a small American town. So like my character is, not only is it like sort of in a different country that I went to high school in Sweden, in a very pretentious high school where everybody sort of had smoked pipes and like had suspenders, right?
Oh no!
So I'm like, small town American high school is exotic to me, and I don't know how they dress, and I don't know what an 18-year-old dresses like. So I have this fitting, and it's like, some skater things and some skater baggage thing. And there's this meme, like this photo of Steve Buscemi who says like, "Hey, what's up, kids? Have you seen this?"
No.
Can I show you?
Yeah, please.
Because this is like I've heard a lot that like, my resemblance to Steve Buscemi. Which,
oh wait, did Conan ask you about that? No,
it's just a thing, and I mean, I think that Like Steve Buscemi has one of my favorite faces of all time. I love his face. But anyways, what is it? Like, Hey Kids or something. This might be really boring for the listeners.
No. We'll clip this out where you're looking for it, and then it'll just be right there.
How do you do, fellow kid? Like, that's what I felt like. Like, it was like that type of clothes. There was like even like, cap backwards and like baggy things, and I'm like, I've never felt old before, and that's what I mean about being 27. Is like for the first time, you're sort of not the youngest anymore, right? Like,
no.
It's a shift where you're like, oh, like I'm a kid. I'm always the youngest.
But you literally just stepped out of the building like a minute ago, and you're like, oh, the door already closed. What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I was just in there. Like, sorry. Yeah.
And the entire cast, I was like a senior by like 5 years, and I'm like, I feel old for the first time ever in this setting. I feel old. Yeah. And it's one of those things where, like, I think late 20s is one of those things where there is a shift of going from, like, young man to, like, there's to, like, adult. Like, it's a weird thing, right? And there's two ways to look at that. You can go, like, look at aging as this sort of, mortality thing, and shit starts to happen, and your body starts decaying, and I feel that as well. Like, I don't want to die, it feels terrible, but there's I think there's also a way of sort of looking at, like, okay, now this is my time right now. Like, now I am 27, now I'm 35, now I'm 40, and like doors are closing and others are opening, and like your life is sort of moving in one direction or another, but it's changing, and the change is what's great, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you can't, it's so easy to keep looking back, but if you're looking back, then you could miss the door that's going to open to something even better.
Yeah.
But I think even now they're really starting to understand more about the human brain, that around 25, and I'm sure I'll be corrected on this if this is fake science, but around 25, before that, your brain, your identity still hasn't really. I mean, I don't think I remember actually having a complete self-awareness until I was in my late 20s, maybe almost even early 30s, because it's when you're younger, it's always like, oh, then I'm going to be 16 and I'm going to drive, and then I'm going to be 18, and then I'm 21, and then 25. I'm a quarter of a century, and then after that, and then it's like 30, then 40. That it's like you're in that sort of weird. Space, but you're really like, it's a magical time for you.
Yeah.
Your body's going to be going through a lot of changes, Bill.
But not as much. That's the difference, right?
Not
like,
as much, yeah.
Up to 20, there's like, but 25, yeah, it's like, I think the frontal cortex or whatever is still, just developing up until 25, and you feel it. Like, I feel like I've gone through so many changes, not physically, but like mentally, over the past 3-4 years. Like, I am different today than I was when I was 22, right? Yeah. 22 to 27. Those 5 years you are still developing, and you are changing, and you get new perspectives on things, and you also find new interests. Like, you start reading things that you hadn't read before and all that stuff. And then you're 27, and 26 and 27 is not that big of a difference, right? And 27 to 30, not that. The difference becomes less and less. Like, the body changes less and less in terms of, like, you sort of, I think your late 20s is sort of when you figured out sort of the things that you might like, the clothes that you wear, the things that you're into, and that's probably going to stay quite similar, or
Absolutely.
If 30 to 40, it's like, it's not huge changes. And that's, I think, also what is terrifying about it is, like, from 15 to 20, it's a lifetime of changes, right? And 20 to 25, also a lifetime of changes. And then just
and then you're like, I'm done, I'm good.
And then you're like, yeah.
Well, there is if physical puberty happens around 12, 13, 14, I really do feel like there's an emotional puberty that happens around 27, 28.
Yeah. Which is why people have crises, I think, during your late 20s as well, right?
Of course. Because 30 always sounds, to my parents' generation, 30 was like well, you're almost dead.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
you would just
two kids and a
yeah,
Volvo.
just get a walker and take your teeth out and put them by the bed. But, you know, we have an extended adolescence. You know, your generation and my generation sort of has this spoiled extended adolescence. But I think right before you hit 30, you also might find that because when you're young, you'll just sort of be friends with everyone. You're just sort of casually friends with everyone. But then in your late 20s, you start kind of forming your real identity. And then you'll start to like shed friends because you just realize I actually don't really have anything in common with those people. Right. And I think you start choosing your path more.
Right.
Where you go, I'm only going to hang out with these people because I have these interests, as opposed to like, fuck it, let's all just fucking hang out. You
right.
know? Oh, that guy's smoking some weird thing out of a shoe, but fuck it, you know. And then at a certain point, you're like, yeah, those people, they stay up too late. I think you really do start to kind of find your own little.
Yeah, absolutely.
Niche.
But I think, I mean, you know, again, just going back to what we know about sort of the brain's development. I mean, if we know for certain that, you know, your sort of cognitive reasoning is very much still in development up to 25.
Yeah.
That poses sort of a question to how we should treat an 18-year-old, right? I mean, you're right. You have the right to vote and not drink in this country,
right?
But you can die for your country,
right?
But like cognitively, you're not you yet, or
right.
you're not fully developed. Like you're, you know, and partially what's still in development is like reasoning,
right,
and like judgment control and all these different things that, like, I mean, because I remember. When I started going out in Stockholm, you know, I was 19, 20. It's 18. The drinking age is 18 in Sweden. And we would go out with, like, all my friends. We were a big group of guys, like, that would, like, sort of have pre-drinks at, like, my place. And we would all, like, play music and get drunk. And, like, every night was just, like, this amazing, crazy adventure of, like... First of all, like trying to get into the place was like a thing, and then once you got in, you were like, "I'm the king of the world," you know. And you would drink, and it was like, you know, one of those things where like you can't have those sort of party nights again. You know what I mean? Like there's a certain when you're younger and everything is new for the first time, and like whatever hitting on a girl is like the most exciting feeling ever. There's a lot of firsts happening, but I was also like. We would get drunk and get like weirdly aggressive, you know, and it's a weird Swedish thing. Like you wouldn't know, you wouldn't think that, but Swedes get really aggressive when they drink. And I don't know if it's like we're so sort of polite and and sort of introverted in a sense, and then like that we just get drunk and everything is just like everything that we're just holding in.
Sure.
But I remember, anyways, that we would go out and, you know, someone would, you know, bump into you and it was like, you know, and this all these sort of testosterone fucking Neanderthal brain would just, like, take control.
It's your inner Viking.
Yeah, but it's, you know, and, you know, the complete lack of judgment control, right? Like, you would get into fights or you would, you know, break stuff and, like... And it was just, and obviously drinking sort of, alcohol has that effect on you as well. It sort of enhances this thing that... but you were also in a weird place and time, and then this was 2 years ago, and you know I was 25, and sort of I was out, and you know I've been partying, and you know I'm on my way to like McDonald's to have like get a burger. I'm by myself. I'm like I'm gonna get a burger. It's 3 a.m. I'm gonna get myself a burger. I'm gonna go fall asleep, and I'm like standing in line, and they're you know by the way, this is McDonald's in Sweden at 3 a.m. is one of the worst places you could ever be.
Why is that?
Because it's just a cluster of... like, we don't have diners, 24 diners.
Oh, gotcha.
So everybody goes to McDonald's to
have... So it's all just drunk people.
It's all drunk people,
yeah.
and there's a lot of people who maybe have not had the greatest of nights. And it's 3 a.m, so everybody's like, you know... There's a lot of sort of angry drunk people who have, you know, not, you know, sort of... got snubbed or whatever it's been, what a terrible night they've had. But I'm standing and I'm by myself, and there's like, you know, a bunch of kids cutting line or something, and I'm like, come on, man, like I just say something like that, and these kids are probably like between 18 and 20. And the guy turns around and says, "What the fuck did you say to me?"
Oh no!
And I'm like, I'm standing in line here, guys, and he's like, "Really? huh? What you wanna go? Where all these kind of things, and I'm like, no, I want a Big Mac, right? and he was like, do this thing. It's like you'll see when you go outside, you'll see. You won't be talking, blah blah blah. And there are 10 of them. There are 10 of them or 15 of them. They're just an army of puberty, testosterone-driven, underdeveloped brains, and they're all
full
there.
Of alcohol.
Yeah, full of alcohol. And I just go like, and I think to myself, I'm like, I've been that kid. I've been you. You know, maybe not you,
right,
but
right.
I've been like 20, and like you go out and this starts out. The beginning of the night starts out with you having so much anticipation for the night and energy and like excitement, and then your night goes to shit or whatever, and you're just really angry and you want to fight or whatever it is. And I'm thinking, I'm 25, and like that was, you know, going again about like being late 20s when you start like, I've aged. Like I felt
you
like
can already feel
yeah,
the
I felt
difference.
like I'm, you know, only a couple of years ago I might have been, you know.
So you didn't fight the guy?
No, I was just like, oh, okay. And
you could have just grabbed him and hugged him and go, I know what you're going.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I should have done.
Let it out.
Okay. It's okay. You'll hopefully you'll grow out of this as well. And you know, and then you know, I was like, and I started, you know, and I was also drunk, but a fully developed brain being drunk.
Right,
so I was like,
right,
okay,
right.
so what are my options here, Bill?
Yeah.
You know, there are 10 of them. You know, you're by yourself. You're gonna have to go out to the McDonald's and get into a cab.
Right.
Are they gonna jump you? Are you gonna, you know, throw a punch and run? What's the best strategic? And I'm like, just my frontal cortex is just trying to be as, you know,
You're doing all the calculations.
calculations of how you get out of this situation, you know, in the smartest way. But I sort of remain calm, and I order my Big Mac, and then I walk out, and I sort of see them, sort of the guys there, and they forgot about it. You know, they're probably fighting someone else
Yeah,
at
of
that
course.
time.
Or each other,
right?
punching the
You know,
building.
so it was fine, but I remember I saw sort of the shift in me and the clear difference of being that, you know, 20 something, and I don't think at the time I knew about sort of the part of your brain that's not fully developed yet, but it clearly isn't, and I've lived through the shifts,
Right.
and that goes to, you know, I think that says something about, you know, and if you look at sort of people being drawn into whatever, it's any form of extremism, like you know, neo-Nazis or sort of religious fundamentalism, like that happens a lot around that age of kids being sort of between 18 and 25, right?
Right.
And or patriotism, like this sort of like going to war and like all these, like very sort of, it speaks to a young man's brain,
Right.
that maybe like, oh, there's a lot of different things here that I maybe would have taken into account if I was
you were a little bit older.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and it's an interesting thing if you look at it that way, and like what does it say about how we should treat a judgment of an 18-year-old,
And sort of, right.
or how you can use that. You can use an 18-year-old's underdeveloped, testosterone-driven brain to become an excellent soldier, for instance.
Right.
You know? I mean, that all of those things are qualifications that, you know.
Well, the extremists extremism, like you said, extremism really preys on that, because it's like they can really get in there. And I think if you can, you know, if some of these ideas really get woven in as someone's brain hardens over it,
right,
then it's very difficult to undo that,
right,
because it's almost like, you know, throwing a penny into wet cement.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It just hard, and you're like, God, I get this fucking thing out of here. Yeah, I think it probably would have been helpful if you had, while you were hugging the guy, just say, I understand your brain isn't fully formed yet. And just to see if that maybe would have taken some of the tension out of the situation.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I should start. Just give me a minute. So, how old are you?
I think...
Well, you're 21. Right. Well, so here's what your brain is doing.
In a couple of years, you're going to look back on this, you're going to regret it, you're going to realize you were being silly. It almost feels like they should just put up cameras at a McDonald's in Sweden at 3 o'clock in the morning and just shoot a reality show of like what happens.
And no, but it's so violent and bad. Like, people really do get hurt. I think probably every Friday, Saturday night. Like, it's a very, very hostile thing. And I mean, it's almost like I would recommend tourists just try
just once.
if you're interested in.
Don't bump into anybody.
Right. Just see what that's like, because it's a weird thing, and you learn about your own culture once you've left it, in a sense, you know.
Sure.
So that was just what I grew up with, and you start going to McDonald's at late night, well before you're drinking age as well, because it's the only thing that's open. So when you're at house parties as a teenager and you end up at McDonald's, and so many bad interactions.
Is the menu the same, or are there like Swedish faves?
I think it's the same, but it's better because it's like it's all like Swedish produced stuff. Got it. They just have higher demands on what there's like what the products need to be or whatever.
So there's not anything like, and you can get a basket of fish faces at McDonald's.
No, it's just it's a regular quarter pounder.
Faces. What? Oh, this is great. You just eat the faces. So just hearing you say like you've learned so much about your culture when you come away from it, I'm fascinated to know, because I feel like you have a leg firmly planted in each culture because you've spent a lot of time in the States.
Yeah.
How do you view the United States, or how do you, sort of, not that 350 million people here, so it's not like everyone's like, yeah, America! That seems to be the loudest voice a lot of the time. But what is how do you define Swedish culture? Like when you sort of look at it, what is the vibe or feeling that you get, or a couple of words that kind of make you stand? How do you characterize Swedish culture?
I think for someone who's like never ever thought about Sweden ever, it's like, I think maybe because I spend a lot of time in Toronto, in Canada.
Oh, gotcha.
I think there's still similarities to Canadians and Swedes in a sense, or at least for an American that's sort of never left America or whatever. If they think of like Swedes tend to be very polite in the same way that we would think of Americans think sort of Canadians, apologetic and polite.
Sure.
It's extremely organized and extremely regulated, and like there's rules and people follow rules, and you're not supposed to stand out. You're not supposed to be, overly loud. You should be humble and modest and polite.
I'm just laughing because it's everything that we're not.
I know.
It's like here. It's like stand out.
Right.
Be loud if you have to.
No, but it really is. And there's this thing that's sort of well known for Europeans, is that you can always spot an American in any restaurants because you can hear them.
Yes.
And if you travel around, it's just like, well, I don't want that, well, won't you? And it's just like, he's American. And you can spot Canadians because they have the same accents, but they're not as loud. It's amazing, right? But I think that's very Swedish, and so partially like leaving that and coming to America, I find liberating that here it's like you're allowed to be loud. You're allowed to stand out and be sort of doing your own thing is encouraged here. It's
right.
Like, good for you. Good for you. Like that actually means something here. You know, there's a lot of like, great job, good for you. And in Sweden, if you do something that's to stand out, or you it's like, well, just don't do it too much.
Right.
That's the first thing, like, don't stand out too much.
Sort of good for you, but also take it down a notch. Yeah.
Exactly. Sort of good for you, but who the hell do you think you are?
Take it down a notch. Right. Sweden, take it down a notch.
Yeah. No, but it really is. And I think America is maybe exactly what you were saying. It's on the extreme other end of it.
Sure.
There's a lot of lessons to be taught with the sort of Swedish thing. It's called jantelagen in Swedish. It's like it's a name for this thing that you shouldn't stand out. So like if you shouldn't buy, like if you just take the example of suburban houses.
Yeah.
If you make more money than me, you're my neighbor. Don't buy a very expensive car, right? Like, buy the Volvo, the family car, and it doesn't. And so, like, have a modestly renovated house. And even if you're making like big money, never show that you're making big money, right?
Right.
So you're supposed to sort of, my neighbor, and we sort of have the same car. It's like that's kind of where the bar should be. And I think here it's sort of the opposite. It's like, make sure that you have bigger or fancier car than you, right? Or it's like, oh, you just I just renovated, I just got a pool, and it's like this kind of thing, and it sort of encourages this sort of consumerism and like
oh yeah,
and there's great things coming from it's sort of this social democratic perspective of like everybody should sort of be equal, and you shouldn't sort of compete, and everybody should take care of each other, and it's better if it's better if everybody's sort of on the same level here, as opposed to like bragging about money where other people might not have it. And so that is why we have it. It's ingrained in our culture and sort of in our way of looking at the world. God,
it's so nice though.
It is nice, and it really is. And I mean, that's why I think being brought up in Sweden is so it's such a gift for someone to not only like for my future kids. I really want them to go to school in Sweden and kind of get that. It's a very good place to learn your values,
right,
and sort of get a good start in life of how you judge people and how you look at the world. Yeah, I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, I mean this sort of this extension of this kind of hyper capitalism in America, and it's not. I'm not against it. It's just it actually does teach us like, hey, just good for you. You can do what you want. That's good. Yeah. Really focus on what you're passionate about. I mean, that's everything that I've ever encouraged people to do is focus on what you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. The problem with like this type of hyper capitalism is that if you're so into your own thing, or so much trying to make your own mark, sometimes I think when everyone's doing that, they're not connecting with each other. Like, they're not coming together necessarily for any reason because they're so into their own thing that it like a nice balance of the two would be nice. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's okay to have a nice car, but not at the expense of something. It's like not. It's all me and fuck everyone else,
right?
And unfortunately, social media completely encourages, completely encourages crawling into our own.
And it's strange because I think this is also a thing that maybe Americans don't realize as much as I guess just non-Americans, because so the American culture has completely taken over the world, right? So sometimes I get questions from Americans like, so what are you guys watching in Sweden? I'm like, what do you think? Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? Or The Avengers, or whatever it is. Like, it's the same thing.
Right.
It's exactly the same thing. Or like, I mean, Handmaid's Tale. Like, every show that's huge is huge in Sweden.
Right.
So the culture. And I think that the shift has been sort of during my lifetime, actually. So, like, I'm born 1990.
Yeah.
And, like, in 1990, there was much more sort of globalization hadn't gone to the extent yet.
Still just barely pre-internet.
Yeah, just like a couple years before internet. And, those only, like, 1990 to 2000 was a massive change, and then 2000 to 2010 even more so. It just constantly changing quicker and quicker. But so Swedish people not only do like 12-year-old Swedish kids speak fluent English at this point. I mean, it's truly a bilingual country.
Yeah.
Whereas like an 80-year-old might not speak good English at all.
Right.
A 12-year-old certainly does. And a 12-year-old plays World of Warcraft and chats and Call of Duty, and they speak English to their things, and they're whatever kids do, they make YouTube videos of themselves playing
kids,
the game.
Whatever they're doing.
But it's true because like I don't know, it's happening so quickly that even 5 years, like it's like every 5 years is a brand new generation. I find because like I went to high school without iPhones, and then iPhones came, and then Instagram came. I mean, it's just like this whole thing, but anyways, my point is that Sweden has, the past 10, 15 years, rapidly sort of gone towards a more American model in not only politics, but sort of in sensibility and things of, or just how we view the world politically, and how it's changing because America has such an overpowering influence on all of the world.
Yeah.
And it's just becoming like the difference. It's like it's really hard to sort of distinguish what is one place and another
right.
in terms of the borders. And Americans don't realize it because Sweden is not sort of influencing Americans all that much, but Americans, and like, to me it feels like almost it's just becoming a mishmash, and like in 20 years or 30 years, like, English will be a completely bilingual language, probably in most of Europe.
Maybe this is your mission: is to bring Sweden to America. You need to bring some Swedish ideals to America. Calm some of the shit down here.
Right.
Just calm
That's
down.
what Bernie Sanders tried to do.
I want to bring Sweden to America. This is what I would like to do.
But it's interesting. Like, I don't know. Like,
Just get the Volvo.
yeah, just get the Volvo.
Just get the Volvo.
That's a pretty good one.
Just get the Volvo. Just get the Volvo. But I think it's kind of interesting to see where the conversation's gone, because we were talking about what happens in your youth and how your brain forms, and then we started speaking culturally, and it made me realize that in the sort of schoolyard of the world, America is still kind of a young country, almost kind of a teenager, maybe getting into like 20, 21, 22 years old. Yeah. So, maybe America's brain is still forming, our prefrontal cortex is still forming, and so that's why we're like this. It's like, and maybe in 100 years we'll be like, oh boy, sorry about that shit. We had a good time. No, so America's basically the drunk guy that wants to fight you in McDonald's.
Right,
yeah. But soon,
That's funny.
Yes.
You want to go, bro?
Come on, bro. America.
Nuclear weapons!
America, you want to go, bro? Motto. Can you explain to me because I don't actually know what the pronunciation is, but the diacritical ring that's over the A, which is its own separate letters, correct? That's in your last name. The little.
Is it called an umlaut? Or is
umlaut's the two dots. That's just the little circle is like, I don't know what the name is.
I think
it's a diacritic.
That's what it's called. Yeah.
Well, a diacritic is any kind of a, like when you hold a letter down on the phone, and you get all these
versions.
Yeah, you get all these things. Yeah. It's just basically it changes the sonic value of the vowel.
Yeah.
But I don't. Is it? Does it hold out the A sound? How is it actually pronounced?
So A with two dots over it
is an umlaut. Yeah. Okay.
And then the A with one dot over it, which my last name has, is O.
O.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I can't.
So, which is kind of, because is easy for Americans. Sure. It's just like it's just like a note. But O is harder, and the hardest one is which is O with two dots over it.
Oh yeah, I can't.
So those are the three vowels that we have that you don't. And so my last name in Swedish would be Skarsgård.
Got it. But here in America, it's Skarsgård. Hey there, Skarsgård. Yeah. I mean, was it? You're very forgiving. You're very forgiving about just going, I can't bother to correct everyone every fucking time. It's just impossible.
No, but Skarsgård is fine. I mean, that's how I say it here.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would be annoying if I would just try to go Ord.
It's Skarsgård, please. Good. Respect my
Mr. Skarsgård.
Mr. Skarsgård.
And it sounds funny. It's like a. It's like a pirate thing. Skarsgård! Like it's Skarsgård!
You have the perfect name for Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Yeah,
when we do Talk Like a Pirate Day, it's Skarsgård the pirate.
Yeah, exactly.
He's 27 now. He doesn't like to fight like he used to because he's really become reflective. Yeah, maybe we don't chase the treasure. We let the treasure come to us. That's how we do it. Yeah, I don't know. It's exciting to hear. So, I mean, I guess I'm considerably older than you are, but it's nice to hear someone, speak positively and favorably about the passage of time and the coming of age and the excitement. I mean, hearing young people be excited about something other than their Instagram feed is really refreshing to me.
Right.
I mean, it really. I know that's out there. We just see so much of the world as reflected through the digital age. But it is because there was a guy last night in my fucking hotel, and I'm not a physical confrontation person, but I wanted to grab this guy's man bun and beat his face against the wall, and it activated something very deep in me that I think just goes back to being bullied by douchebags when I was younger.
You're right.
But he wasn't even a big guy, but we were in line I was in the lobby of my hotel, and I had to pee so bad I didn't want to go up to my room, so I was like, I'll just go in and the guy was in front of me. The back of his head was shaved, but he had a man bun. He was probably about your age, and he was talking to this girl, and I couldn't tell if they were in line. I was like, "Are you in line for the bathroom?" And he's like, "Hey, bro, I'm just doing something here." And then it was like one of those. And he was giving her these shitty, cheesy, like, "Yeah, I think we should..." He was like, just like, he didn't clear. I thought they were a couple, but it was clear he was just hitting on her in the bathroom line. And it was fucking working, and it would really hurt my soul. And he was just one of these guys. He was drunk, and it was exactly what you were talking about. Maybe his brain hadn't formed yet. But he was kind of talking out loud to everyone in the line. He was just sort of holding court. He's like, "This line's so long, I might just go piss over in the corner." And I just want to be like, would you just fucking shut up? I just wanted to, like, is this man bun like an off? Can I just twist it off? Does this shut you up? Yeah, I just want to power this guy down. But he was just so much of that energy, that douchey energy, that it really created rage. And I wish I had the perspective that you had, like, well, okay, I can see. For me, I just felt pure hatred, and there was definitely a generational gap.
Yeah, well, there's. I think I would have felt similarly, even being his generation.
I just wanted this girl to say to him, like, "Fuck up!" Like, I just wanted to say, even talking to this guy,
think you are?
You're encouraging this. This is why he's allowed to thrive.
But even because it is like the whole sort of the prefrontal cortex development. I mean, there's also like the president of this country who never went through that phase, it seems. so
his prefrontal cortex is still forming.
Or never it just fell off course at some point.
I shit it out. I didn't need it anymore. I just shit it out.
Sad.
Prefrontal cortex flushing down the toilet. Sad.
Yeah. Sad. Loser.
Trump standing over a toilet, looking at his prefrontal cortex and shouting and flushing as he says, "Loser." Yeah, you're fired. You're fired. Prefrontal cortex, you're fired.
So I don't know, man, but it is. I think I like to think of like one of my best friends, Landon Liberon, who was on Hemlock Grove.
Oh yeah, I know Hemlock Grove.
And he he's one of those guys. He says a lot about, like, he's a very like a romantic guy, and always just goes like, "Man," we would sort of we spend so much time up in Toronto together, and he would just go like, "Oh, man, like, it's just not what it used to be, like time, like, like he's like a really old man stuck in this handsome 25-year-old's body, but he's like collects vinyls and wear like old brown clothes."
Right. Yes, of course.
And he's like, "Oh, it used to be like in the '60s, like when you bought a record and that record meant this."
'60s.
Why is that funny?
Because having someone reminisce about a time they never lived in is funny to me.
But even like before, like, you wrote letters to someone you liked. I mean, there's so much time we can look at and be like.
I think it's great that he appreciates those things.
Yeah, and whatever, and it's like, it's just of now, and he just kind of shits on all over our time, the time we're living in, and it's just sort of this vain, and nothing means anything anymore, and you don't really pay attention to anything anymore, right? Yeah. It's like you have 15 seconds, and that's about it, and then I'll move on to the next thing, and there's sort of an idea that before in the past, people sort of cherish moments more and all this stuff.
Oh, sure.
And all of it is valid points. But sort of, and I think that's also part of, that's a part of every young generation, I think, is just always kind of like, people in the, this is always like, well, it used to be better, man. Our time sucks. It's kind of this thing that I think every generation sort of feel.
I'm sure even like in the Industrial Revolution, like these buildings, I can't, concrete's dumb. Why can't we just have thatched roofs?
Farms, man.
Farms. We can have the farms. What are these? Man, these things with wheels. What's wrong with a horse? Why do we got to improve on that, man? Like Industrial Revolution hipsters.
Yeah. I'm like, of all the shit that's going on in the world today, I think we live. Like, everyone who is alive right now live in the most spectacular, interesting time of all time.
Sure.
And just pause for a moment and think about that, right? So, human evolution has been going on since the birth of life, right? We've been evolving for millions and millions and millions of years, and Homo sapiens has been around for what, like 150,000 years?
Just a smidgen.
Just a little smidgen.
Yeah.
But it's 150,000 years of potential lives, right? And history and 10,000 years of agriculture and civilization. And now might be the most interesting time to ever be alive in the history of mankind.
Yes.
I mean, and it's you can make it's a strong point. Like, even the fact that, like, and maybe it will be the best time ever to be a human. Like, maybe my children will have, curfews, and, like, they can only use electricity between this. Like, I don't know
where the purge. It'll be the purge.
Or the purge, right?
Yeah.
But and it is changing. But even the change, even the imminent sort of disaster is exciting to live through. You know what I mean? Like
feel alive.
But it is, like, I don't know. It's just I'm slashly, like, there's just like this. I'm so terrified and intrigued at the same time about everything that's going on.
Sure.
But just a little thing like this, like flying, right? Like flying from New York or from LA to Stockholm to go to my the premiere, and I was there for 2 days, and then I flew to Boston, and then I worked in Boston, and it's like I can be in 3 continents in 2 days.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even cost that much to fly, right? Like, everybody can sort of afford it. If you have a job, you can get a ticket for, like, back and forth to New York, Sweden, $350.
Right.
I mean, it's not even. It's not even like. And I'm thinking about that. And I'm like, this, like, 50 years ago, that was not the case. Like, only really rich people got to fly.
Right.
And 100 years ago, airplanes weren't around. I mean, it's and Spotify. Like, I have every music that's ever been made at the tips of my fingers.
And it's still hard to decide what to listen to. God,
it's even harder, right? Or like, Netflix or Filmstruck, or like, all these different things where, or like I can get any book and I can read it on my phone at any given time. We really live in, like, if you would explain, if we would, just have a phone call, a line, just like, here, there's, Bob from 1901 here.
Hello?
And he just goes, hey, sir, what's going on over there? And he just goes, like, and you just explain to him, like, what your deal is. Like, well, no, we don't write letters. You FaceTime with your girlfriend.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What do you mean? Like, no.
You wouldn't even really have the reference points to be able to explain to him what it was.
But could you imagine? Like, and he's off to war, or he's he's away on work for months, and like every other week he gets a little letter from his girlfriend or wife or whatever. And you're like, no, I literally see my girlfriend every time.
What?
I want to, in a little screen, and we could have sex. Like, it's just how, like, I think, if anything, sort of people or my generation or younger generations should just pause for a second and think, like, you might be alive at the most privileged time, and I mean, if you look statistically, without a doubt,
there's no question,
of all time that's ever been.
Yes.
Like, so, just pause and think about that for a second. Not only are you around to be a thing, which is like miraculous, you're also around to be a thing in the best time of all time.
It is pretty. I mean, but trying to imagine how to explain to that guy in 1901, it's like the internet is like an infinite Sears catalog with sex stuff. Like, how would you explain a meme to someone, or how would you explain, or what would what would that guy's version of a hipster be like? Records? All the cool kids are still listening to wax cylinders. There's no way. I feel like it would be difficult to even have, like I said, the reference points for that person to understand how localized the world has been. And now they're even, talking about, rockets could take you anywhere in 30 minutes around the globe.
Right.
You just kind of go into the lower atmosphere, and then, you kind of parabolically go up and then down, and then 30 minutes. And if that happens, then it basically, it will become just a true interconnected local species.
Yeah.
But it is crazy and also sad how spoiled we get, how fast, I think Louis C.K. had a bit about someone complaining about the internet on the plane. It's like, they didn't have this a couple years ago.
I know,
what the fuck is your problem?
I love his whole bit about just being in an airplane.
Yeah.
You're flying! You're sitting in a chair 30,000 feet in the air flying. I mean,
we do take it for granted. We do take all that stuff for granted.
But it's also, and I think that it's also one of the the lesson to be learned as well is like, because you can look ahead, sort of envision in a future where it's like, well, it just keeps on getting better and better, and like, we solve all these big issues, and like cancer is cured and or solved, and global warming is solved, and starvation is gone, and like there is the future, the possible future where that this time is not the best time ever, right? That it's like, oh well, if we can get a phone to someone 100 years from now, we would go like, oh man, what, really? You know what I mean? And that is the trajectory that you want, right? Like that. So from 1917 until today, if you would explain life to one of those people, they would probably be extremely envious to everything that you have available to you at any given time. And I think the lesson to be learned is like, because there's my worry is that we're borrowing things now. It's just like we're borrowing we're borrowing the environment. We're just like, this is just like we're in debt.
Oh yeah.
Environment like flying, being in 3 different continents in 2 days. It's just you're borrowing time and suffering for
always.
So, and there's so many things in like sort of how much we consume and the fact that we are able to sort of in the Western world live the way we do and spend the way we do and all these different things, and the worry is that like we're not going to be paying back that debt, but like that our children will or our grandchildren will in a major way. And like, how will they look at us? How will they look at us being the most privileged people to ever live in the most privileged time of all time, just being like, man, fucking one more, and then just like immature, premature frontal cortex idiots.
I mean, I think in 100 years they'll be like, man, they had water.
Right?
Those fuckers had water and they didn't even appreciate it.
Right.
Now, we're just fucking Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah. They were pissing in fine drinking water.
They were pissing in water. That's how much water they had. Fucking idiot. But I feel like we constantly, like, one of the things about being younger is you're constantly, I feel like we're always just going, fuck you, older self, because we're constantly writing checks and we're like, someday I'll pay this off later, or someday the culture will pay this off later. I don't know when, I don't know how, but hopefully it'll work out.
My friend about too much. My friend uses that a lot. He's like, that's future me's problem.
Yeah. I don't have to worry about that right now. And future me's going to be like, what a fucking dick. Young me was.
Or no, not even. It's like paying your rent or whatever it is. It's like, what a dick, 2 days ago me was to me. It's like
like an hour ago.
Right, yeah. What was he thinking? Or like drunk me. How many times haven't we thought like, go fuck yourself, drunk me?
Yeah, seriously.
I'm here now with the hangover and all the
Or it's like the difference between daytime Swedes and nighttime Swedes. Very polite daytime, nighttime.
Oh boy.
I have to tell there's 2 more things I wanted to ask you about. Number one, the Castle Rock, which I'm very excited about. But I meant to tell you when I saw you at Conan. And great job on Conan, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man. I was so flattered that you mentioned me, and like the whole thing was so surreal to me.
Oh, come on! It was.
And I was like, he's mentioned me. He knows I exist.
Of
That's
course,
so
I do. We had just been to the premiere.
Yeah.
And my wife. Oh God, this was. I'm going to preface this story by telling you everything worked out fine. The thing that happened, it's all fine. But I had something happened at the premiere that, as much as I was loving the movie, I was so crushed with guilt. So you know how they had all those people in their raincoats holding the balloons?
Yeah.
And so their backs were to the red carpet, so you would walk around the people, and then you would do the red carpet. And then my wife and I were, they were like, let's take singles, let's take pictures of singles. This red carpet's the most surreal experience ever, and I will never get used to it. But they're taking single pictures of my wife and single pictures of me, and so one of the people in the yellow raincoat just lays down in between us. Yeah. And so I think we go to a lot of horror things, we go to a lot of horror mazes, theme parks and stuff. So I just think, this is a crazy thing that they're doing. Like all these people are going to lay down, still holding the balloon in his hand, just staring upward, just sort of, dead-eyed. And so I think, he's playing around. So I start standing over and I'm like, hey, I have my balloon. I brought a red balloon, like making faces. We're taking pictures. And my wife goes, you think he's okay? And I completely shut her down. I go, he's fine. It's part of the thing. Don't I don't want her to ruin his the thing. Yeah. Like, don't ruin the bit. He's doing, And then after a minute, it's like, he's not moving. And so security comes over. This kid had complete heat exhaustion. And they had to, take him away.
Oh my God, how old was this kid?
Probably 20, I don't know, 18, 19,
because they were small, right?
Well, they were smaller, but he wasn't like a child.
Right, yeah.
He was late teens, early 20s, from what I could tell. And the entire movie, just could not stop thinking, this poor person was in trouble. Because I was being a fucking asshole because there were cameras there. I thought it was a bit. My wife tried to help him, but I was like, he's fine.
Right.
And then they came over and they helped. Ultimately, they got him. They rehydrated. He was okay. I guess I kept checking all night on him.
Right.
And they said he hadn't eaten all day. He was in these really hot clothes.
Right.
And he hadn't had any water.
Yeah.
So he ended up being fine. But it was such a surreal thing that happened that I didn't know, that I just, the whole time I was like, this guy's gonna die, and I didn't know, and it was my fault. And you were like,
hey, take a selfie!
Hey, look at this guy! I got a balloon too! Yeah. Oh. And it just, it made me realize that my default setting of hey, we're all fucking clowning around here, is maybe not always the best default setting in situations.
Yeah. Oh
but it was not part of the premiere at all. But the movie was so beyond, and it's a very hard balance because you have the book and then you have the miniseries and then this new thing, and reboots don't always go great. But this, what I said to people after I saw it was, it's so amazing. It's so much its own thing. You can absolutely still have the other experiences, and then this is just a really separate, beautiful experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of those, it was a weird thing, because when we were shooting the movie, you have to understand that this is such a terrifying undertaking for me. Getting the job, just oh wow, no, oh my God, because I knew that there was it was very highly anticipated, the miniseries traumatized Sweden, so many, my girlfriend's a little bit older than me, and all of they're that movie, just that was the movie that everybody talked about, so. It spread all the way to Sweden in a major way, and it was such a big thing, and the anticipation for the remake was huge. When we were doing it, and so I was doing, there was points, the first step was just okay, focus to get the job, right? It was a whole process of booking it. And then once I booked it, I'm like, I got the job! Whoa! No! What do I do now? It's sort of in the same,
and then it just sets in the gravity of the weight of the responsibility.
You're gonna be butchered. You're gonna destroy all these people. And you fooled Andy and trusting you, and you're just gonna let everybody down, and all these different sort of creeping little fears that strangle you at night. And but when we were doing it, and I had my way of sort of dealing with that and sort of putting that all of that. I had to put all of that aside and just being Bill, make the clown that you would want to see, and that was
God, that needs to be your Twitter bio,
right? But that was really what I felt. I'm there's gonna be people who hate you and hate your performance, But there might be people that love your performance, and
Sure.
do it for them, and do it for them alone, and don't care about what other people might think of you. And do like, what if I was sitting in the theater? What would I respond to? Like that, for the people in the audience who are like me, and make it for them, sort of a thing, And I think that's ultimately the lesson of any art that you do. It's like, do it so that you like it, or do it so that you'd be proud of it.
Yeah.
And then if someone goes like, "Oh, that's shit," you can go, "Well, we're in different opinions then."
No, my opinions are facts.
Right. So
my opinions are facts.
And then it's sort of like, all right, if you make a job where you can go like, yeah, that's sort of what I wanted it to be, and then someone goes, that's shit, and you can go, oh well, I agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And then there's strength in that and confidence in that. But anyways, when we were doing it, there was like, I've been working as an actor for 18 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did my first thing when I was 9.
Yeah.
And I've been on so many different film sets and so many different TV shows and, or crews, on different parts of the world. And there's an energy to it. There's different energies, and you can sort of sense the collective energy of what you're doing. Sometimes it's very much like clocking in, clocking out. You feel people are like, it's just a job. Because crew members, they work, they don't really care. I mean, they work on different projects.
They're job, they're not,
and if the movie's shit, they still get paid. I mean, it's crew members, the entire crew is like, it's a job for them. And then at times you can feel an energy. It's like, oh, the crew, like everybody part of this crew here feels we're making something, and people are a little bit more excited about this thing than maybe they are on any other project. And I was doing this and we were shooting it with the kids and everything, and I did feel this energy. It was like, we're creating a beast here. Like there's something that's sort of that's clicking.
Yeah.
But I never said it. I couldn't. I'm like, if I say that what we're doing here is something that's really working, it's like I was literally waiting for the crash. Like I was waiting, like things were going really well, and the energy and what we were doing and the excitement, and like I said, the crew members were like, wow, like this is so special, like we're doing something special, we're making something special here. And I felt that, but I couldn't accept it because I was afraid that I was going to jinx everything.
Well, yeah, and it's not even so much. I don't even think it's so much about jinxing as it is. Once you become aware that something is special, it's almost like your brain operates in a different place and you're not present anymore. And it's like, it's just that's a really interesting skill to learn, which is to be present when your body is telling you like, oh, look at this, or like, no, I can't go out and look at it from that point of view. I have to be in it.
Absolutely. I mean, and when you're doing it, you are, but it was also post, like after we've done it, after we were wrapped, and after like, all my work was done, and it was still this. I was like, I think, and I saw, first cut of the movie, and I'm like, I think it really works, But at the same time, I'm like, well, I don't know, like, I was just sort of always waiting for that really big bad to happen, or it can't work, So which is a weird thing. And then once it came out and people really liked it so much, it was like, oh, good. All right, like,
I can let all that go.
Yeah, it's like fine. Oh, I'm so happy, and I do think that, like you said, it's such a testament to Andy and Barbara, and everyone who was involved in making this film, from the prosthetics and the costume design and everything, that like it's so hard to do this, to make a remake or a new adaptation of something that is so culturally, people have such a clear thing of what it is, and what Pennywise was, not only from the book but from Tim Curry's performance, and it's such an iconic thing already. Right. And to redo it almost always fails, right? It almost always does.
It really does, because there are some things where you just go, yeah, they didn't really need to remake that. It was fine the first time. But I think you can really tell the difference between something that's remade because a marketing person said we should remake this, and something that's remade because someone says, I have a very specific, unique vision for this that I think is special. Like the coming at it from a creative side, because it really was its own world. And even I was talking to Finn Wolfhard about it at the premiere, and he said, yeah, they encouraged us all. Because I said, the thing that fascinated me so much, I said, first of all, ton of F-bombs from 13-year-olds, which is great.
Yeah.
But I said...
That's how they talk.
That's how they talk. Yeah. I go, you guys talked how I talked when I was a kid. There was nothing that felt scripted about it. And he said, yeah, they made us all hang out together, and we all actually became friends, and we got to play around and riff around a lot. And so... It was like, I was the kid that was making 30 dick jokes a minute around my friends. Yeah. And so I really... even if it was just that,
right,
I would have felt like, oh, this movie is incredibly so there was an authenticity to it. Yeah. And honestly, the best movie villains don't jump out always and go, rawr, I'm all scary. Right. It's the ones where you can feel that there's an emptiness in them that you can't reason with or touch. Right. That it's just like, you cannot control this thing. Yeah. This thing is going to keep coming for you no matter what, because it won't reason with you in any way. Yeah. But from top to bottom, you guys did such an incredible job, and now I'm excited to, at the premiere when because Seth Green was sitting next to us, and he was like, man, he goes, yo, where do you think this is going to go? Like, what do you think? Yeah. Like, people are already talking about the next movie. Right. Which is, that's a big deal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a huge challenge. And I mean, just because I want to, even give more credit also to Andy in how he treated and worked with the kids. And I think it's a lesson for, sort of how I was brought up, and I think it's a lesson for anyone who has kids. He always treated them with respect and treated them like any other actor. Sure. So he, at whatever they had to say, he listened, and he made sure to listen to them. What's your idea? And he encouraged them to express themselves, express what they thought about the scene, and give them. He really enforced like their sort of confidence in performing, and. In return, these kids were not kids surrounded by adults. They were actors, right? Surrounded by their peers, in a sense. And the kid, they were so free. There was no, hierarchy of like they couldn't do or say anything. They were, Jack Grazer was doing Bill Cosby impersonations. Yeah. And like off, like between takes. Oh, that's amazing. He's such like a little comedic genius, I think. Yeah. But there was like, they were allowed to be who they are fully. Right. There was no like, oh, you can't say that or you can't do this. They were being kids. And within that, their true potential can really shine through. Yeah. It was, I don't think it was for that, they're all going to have, I think, really great careers ahead of them. And they're going to see that there's going to be a lot of different productions where it's not like that. Where it's like, oh, hey, where people tell you how to say what to do, and sort of undermine you just for being a kid. And and I felt that I was a kid actor, and it always infuriated me as a kid. It's like, why aren't you not listening to me? Or like this sort of way of treating kids as kids. It's like, no, treat them as little humans, and minds of their own.
If they're working, they're professionals, and you should treat them like professionals. It's like if if you're hanging out at the park with your kids and your other kids, oh hey, maybe that's. But if they're professional people, then treat them as professional entities.
But I think, even I think you should treat your kids like that. I mean, I think sort of hierarchy and authority, and which is a cultural thing as well, which is much more pronounced in America, is bullshit. Like this authoritative figure in parenting is like, you're a parent, you're the parent. Of course, you're going to be an authoritative figure, but let the kid be like, listen to your child and like encourage your child to be who he is, and like listen to them and ask them questions, and even if they say the most absurd things like kids do about whatever they have thought about, it's like, well, good thing that you had the thought at least.
Good for you.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I saw Andy doing that to the kids, and I was like, he's doing something. He's really, sort of letting these kids' raw talent be encouraged in a beautiful way.
Have they already started talking to you? Have they already started talking to you like, okay, well, we're going to go back and shoot in 2018, and we're already going to get back into...
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all... Yeah, sometime next year, we're working on the script now, and I hope that, because Andy and I had such a good collaboration, and the second one, there's a lot of challenges to the second part, I think mainly that the kids are not in it, really.
Right.
And
they're all adults.
They're all adults. And the kid, I mean, the strength of the novel is the kids. It's so much what the story is the kids. And even the part of the kids being adults is about them being kids.
Right.
So they try to remember all of the things that happened when they were children, and they're adults, and they get brought back together, and they need to figure out who they were as kids, or sort of they never got to really let go of their inner children in a sense.
Yeah.
And the book is told these two storylines back to back. So one chapter adults, one chapter kids. So you're reading it, and you don't know how it's going to end for either the children's story or the adult story up until the very end. We've already told the child story in the first movie. So the second movie, you can't just tell the same story, but they're adults, right? You need to really explore different things.
Here we go again,
right?
guys.
It's like, well, what did we do in the first movie?
Referencing it's the first movie. When they bit that kid's arm off.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We were here.
Oh, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
And they're back in the cistern, and they're like, oh yeah, remember?
Well, I'm in the town in New York Comic Con for Walking Dead stuff, and so I was having dinner last night with a couple of the Walking Dead people, and Andy Lincoln had seen it, and he loved it, and he said, and I loved how all the adults were so broken, almost like, and I go, yeah, it was like they were all kind of monsters in their own way, and he was like, yeah, but, it's because they were all dealing with what they had seen 27 years ago, and I was like, and so we just had this whole conversation about, like, what they, so... This movie might have also been a sequel to what those adults' childhood, what their childhood was. Yeah. But at the premiere, Finn and all the kids were talking about, like, it was so funny to hear them go, like, who would play us? So they were trying to figure out who played him. And I think I won the award for Best Casting Award for Finn's character as an adult, Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Right there.
Paul Rudd.
Can you think of it?
He's amazing.
He's amazing.
I love him.
Sense of humor. Funny. They look kind of similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's sort of get a brown context or something. I really, it's one of those things. Like when people cast someone as an older one and they have different eye colors, it always like, why? What were you thinking?
Technology.
Context is easy, but like I've worked on things where they've not.
They didn't bother with that at all.
No, there's like a brown-eyed character and then there's a blue-eyed kid. I'm like, who? That's not how it works.
Kid had a good read. I don't know what to tell you. The kid had a good read.
I mean, it's going to be such a complete different experience for me, like working with like 40-year-old actors, like, do you know what I mean, as opposed to the kids, and like, oh hi, yeah, and like, it's going to be a completely different experience, and I'm really looking forward to it, and I think, I want to talk to collaborate with Andy and sort of figure out sort of few things, and I think there's a lot of potential to make something. I think it has to be different. So, and this is a thing that I. So when you have a really successful movie, and you want to make the sequel to it, there's a lot of producers and money people that just go, well, that worked. So let's just do more of that. Let's just do that again.
Yeah.
And they really want to make exactly the same movie because they know that movie worked.
Right.
And I think that would be the biggest problem and disaster for the new movie. It's like if they're trying to make the first one, and we have the first one, and it's fantastic and great.
And it was special because
it was that movie. And I think like the coolest version is a sequel. That's something else. Like and you look at them and you're like, obviously it's the same characters and it's this, the clown and everything, but it's like, maybe it's adults. It could be darker. It could be more psychological. There's a lot of different things that could be, played and explored. So you can look at like both of these movies and different movies, but separately as good things.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny to hear you say that because it speaks to what we were saying earlier about trying to recapture your youth. That most sequels are probably like Steve Buscemi going, "Hey, what's up, other kids?
Yeah,
remember? Yeah. A really great example of that is, Rob Zombie made House of a Thousand Corpses, but Devil's Rejects was a completely separate genre of a movie. And it's like, I would love to see sequels experiment with, like, genre hopping.
Right,
like, that's... Even if it fails, it's like, well, you failed on your own terms trying to do something. It didn't fail because people were like, yawn, I saw this the last time.
Yeah, and I think it also, as an audience member, if you go and like, oh, It Chapter 2, and you go like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, that's an exhilarating feeling when a movie surprises you.
Yeah.
I think, and there is, I think audiences should be more open to it as well, and sort of, in genre shifts in sequels, or like kind of exploring different things, and not, and try to view sequels as not necessarily need to compare them to the first thing. It's like, oh, it's another movie. It's the same, and that because ultimately, if the audience is encouraging that, we'll see money people sort of be tending to be more willing to
well, it's just that money people are scared, and money people, if they think creatively, it's riskier for them to think creatively because like we have to look at charts. If we're spending this much money, we have to. There's a formula, and we got to make the formula. But then most of the time, and maybe the formula works more than I realize. But I feel like most of the time, shit works when some sort of creative vision breaks through.
Yeah.
And then all the money people go, "Oh, just do that." Go, no, just get someone else to make their own creative vision.
Yeah.
Like, don't have another kid get his arm bitten off. You know, like we already saw that one time.
Yeah.
But the last thing I want to ask...
What if it's another storm dragon?
It's another storm dragon. This isn't Georgie, this is Giorgio. And Giorgio is older, and he's in like a cool rain jacket. It's blue, and he's like fucking, and it's snowing.
Yeah,
it's not raining, it's snowing.
It's beautiful. It's gonna look beautiful.
Yeah, and it's on the other side of the street, so he's reaching in on the other. So it's not even the same if you really think about it.
It's right hand instead of
right
left.
hand instead of the left hand. You guys, fucking brilliant. That's why I get paid. But the last thing I want to ask you about is Castle Rock because. It really does. I mean, I've just seen the teaser for it, but it seems to be this mega Stephen King, universe of like battle of the Stephen King stars, this kind of a thing.
I mean,
I see like Annie Wilkes, all these different names.
So I saw that teaser before before they reached out to me about the project whatsoever, and my friend was like, "Hey, Bill. Look, it's going to be like a TV version of Pennywise." And I saw it, and I'm like, yeah. Like, yeah. But I was like, and I thought it was weird. It was like, because Pennywise is like a title in the little teaser, and I'm like, what are they doing? Like, it's going to be like another version of like a TV version. And then they reached out to me of sort of just like for an audition or an interest, and I'm like, no, I don't want to. I'm not interested in it. Like I'm Pennywise in the Stephen King movie. Yeah. Like I don't really like. I was sort of, and it's like J.J. Abrams producing and Bad Robot, so they're like super secretive. Like, well, there's no script, you can't read it, and like this whole thing because apparently everything is Star Wars.
Sure, yeah, of course.
And I was like, and so I was like, thank you, but like I'm not so sure. Like I don't want to read for it, and. I was worried that it was going to be so associated with Pennywise, and if Pennywise is going to be in it, and like I'm going to play a character, and then Pennywise is in the show, and I'm like, the whole thing just sounded weird to me. And then they sort of like, oh, okay, well, we'll let him read the script, and you have like 24 hours to read it, and it's a whole like stupid password thing that you need to go into. And I read the script, and I'm like, wow, this is completely unique in its own thing, and it's great. And then I met with Sam Shaw and Dustin Thomason, the showrunners, and just like, I read the script, it's great, what's the show, right? Like, this is the pilot. What is it? And they sort of talked about their vision and what they want to do with it, and then and I was just in the room, just like I'm in.
Oh, that's
like,
great.
Yeah, and it's so a complete shift. And I told them, I'm like, well, so I've been worried that it was going to be so associated with it, and they were like, yeah, the teaser was it didn't make much sense to us either.
So are you allowed to say, are you Pennywise in this, or are you not allowed to say what you are?
No, I'm not. It's a complete separate thing. And so, and I want to make sure, I'm like, just so you know, like, I want to make, and they were like, well, we're sort of, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but they were like, we're deliberately sort of not, like, because it is such a phenomenon, and they want to make their own thing.
Good.
And it's, it's set in Castle Rock, which is, Derry is Pennywise is in Derry, Maine, and Castle Rock is also in Maine, and it's another fictional town of Stephen King's. And so there's characters that do appear, that if you know his world, that but the story itself is original. It's a new story. And like, I'm not going to go into any of it, but it's really good. I mean, the script, the first pilot I was so intrigued, and it's one of those things where, because it's Star Wars, they've been very secretive even for us actors, and I mean, we're on episode 5 now, and I've read episode 6, and like up until like now, sort of, they gave me the full rundown of what actually happens in the end, but before like the first 4 episodes, I didn't really know where it was going. Because they were so secretive about it, and there was a reason for my character didn't need to know.
Got it.
And then there's a shift, and then he needed to know.
I wonder if it's that, or they're behind closed doors. They're like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah,
what the fuck is episode 7?
Right.
Guys, it's very secretive. I don't know what the fuck they're gonna find out. We don't know what the fuck we're doing.
What do you mean? What did we mean by that?
Guy. I don't fucking know. I love that Stephen King's is basically presenting this idea of Maine between Derry and Castle Rock and Bangor, Maine. It's like, Maine is just a fucked up, weird hotbed of murder activity.
Yeah, but anyways, it looks like working on it now, and it's like, every script I go, I'm like, I can't wait to fucking find out what's happening, because it's so mysterious. It's very true to Stephen King in theme and in essence. It's dark, sort of the sort of weird Stephen King sort of dark absurdity. Which is very true to it, and I really think that, it's one of those things you never know how it's going to come out, but I really think that it's going to really carry the Stephen King essence in a new original story, and I'm really excited about it. It's a fun thing, and I'm loving the character I'm playing. It's very different to Pennywise, and I'm using completely different things, but he's creepy.
So, I can't wait. When does that come out?
Sometime next year.
Sometime next year.
We're halfway through the shoot, so.
And a friend of mine just said, for whatever reason, it's rare that I go to the movies anymore because of my work schedule, unless it's a premiere. But and not like I only go to premieres. It's just like I'm conscious to schedule those in, and on the weekends it's rare that I ever go, hey, I've been working all week, but I'm going to go get in the car and park and go see a movie.
Right.
Even though once I'm there, I love it.
Yeah.
So I really want to see Atomic Blonde, but a friend of mine just saw it, and he was like, I just saw it twice.
Yeah.
It was that fucking good.
Yeah. Yeah, Atomic Blonde is fun. I mean, it's if you're into action, it's like, it's as good as it gets. Like, it's just Charlize Theron just radiating as the only way, like, just how Charlize can, it's just like, and just beating the shit out of dudes, which is like great. I mean, I don't know. It's just like to have like a hot badass actress just beating the shit out of guys.
That's
I feel
fantastic.
Like we need more of that.
Well, I've taken up enough of your time, but thank you.
Pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
This was great.
Yeah.
Oh, Bill, it was so nice to meet you, and so I was trying. At Conan, I was trying not to like fan out too much on you, but we just absolutely adored you in the movie, and I'm so excited to, and just having spent some time with you too. Like now, I'm like, before I appreciated you as a performer, and now I'm like, I really like that Bill. He's gonna do great. That guy's gonna do great. So,
well, listen, Chris, if you're coming over to Sweden, I'll have you for dinner.
Literally, like next week. Hey, we're here.
Yeah.
You said any time.
Yeah. No, but for sure, we'll show you around, and
I would love that.
Yeah, please come over.
All right, thank you so much. Enjoy your burrito, everyone.
Now leaving Nerdist.com. Enjoy your burrito.